Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. For those who haven't met me, I am Tom. I'm cybersecurity lead at Smile. I've worked in IT close to 3 decades now, so for those doing the maths, I am as old as I look. Cybersecurity has been a common thread through all of my career, and its focus in my day-to-day has grown with the threats and the risks to our business. Mason, as we already heard, is with us today. He's a cybersecurity engineer. He is passionate about looking at, passionate about understanding modern attacks and how we can protect against them. And he does most of our responding for when an incident does occur with our clients. Additionally, Amrutha is here. She is our senior cybersecurity engineer, and she's a E8 assessor and does a lot of our client audits and cybersecurity tool implementations. Further to this, the extended Smile IT team, from our help desk to our engineers and our project delivery teams, security is the forefront of everything they're doing and how we deliver our support and services. Together, we all embody our commitment to making Smile IT your trusted partner in cybersecurity, focusing on proactive measures and effective tools that empower and don't restrict your business from its critical activities. The speed and efficiency which vulnerabilities are being turned into attacks is growing exponentially, and that is only becoming turbocharged by, you guessed it, AI. We're in an asymmetrical battle against threat actors with more resources, time and money to attack than we have to defend. So how do we survive this? And how do we do it in a way that allows your business the space it needs to grow and succeed? We're here today not to try and scare you, although we probably will, but to try and help you understand the risks and, more importantly, how we can work together to protect your valuable assets, reputation, and your business continuity. The cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue. It's a core business risk that can determine whether your company thrives or fails. Think beyond firewalls and passwords. Cyber attack can trigger a chain reaction that affects every part of your business. From financial impacts from lost revenue during downtime to the high cost of system recovery and regulatory fines. There's reputational damage. Single breach can erode years of customer trust, and it can send your clients straight to your competitors. And then operational disruption. Attacks can halt your ability to deliver products and services, paralyzing your business. And finally, legal consequences. Breaches involving sensitive data can lead to lawsuits, compliance violations, and long-term liabilities. What you see, like phishing emails and malware and their short-term consequences, is just the tip. Beneath the surface lie the hidden long-term impacts: brand erosion, customer churn, strategic setbacks. These are all forces that can quietly drag your business under. To quote a common quote from Robert Mueller, who was the former FBI director, he stated simply that there are two types of companies: those that have been breached and those that will be. Securing our businesses is imperative, but preparing our businesses to also recover from an inevitable breach is just as critical. And that means layering on backups, DR, and cyber insurance. Now, I know I promised not to try and scare you, but this is the scary bit. And I need to provide some context for what we're talking about today. The slide shows some alarming statistics regarding cybersecurity risks in Australia, illustrating a dramatic rise in data breaches from 4.1 million in 23 to 47 million in 24. Staggering increase highlights the urgency of addressing cybersecurity threats. It translates to more than one breach every second. There's also been a 197% surge in email-based attacks, and there were 1,712 reported ransomware cases in the second half of 2024. Finally, the donut chart there visualizes where most of these attacks have started, and phishing is leading the way with 33%. It's a really crucial piece of information for understanding where we need to focus our defenses. Overall, these figures paint a clear picture of the growing cybersecurity challenges that need immediate attention. So let's start with a couple of examples of recent cyber breaches within Australia. Latitude Financial is a major player in the financial services sector. In 23, they experienced one of the largest data breaches in Australian history. Over 14 million customer records including sensitive personal data like names, addresses, driving license numbers, were compromised. The breach was traced back to just one stolen employee credential, which gave attackers access to internal systems. And it wasn't just a technical issue, it had real-world business consequences. There was $76 million in pre-tax costs. Just $53 million of that was spent on the incident response. They had a 6-week disruption to operation and had to pause all new customer onboarding during that period. And the company reported a $98 million loss in the first half of that year. The case highlights how a single point of failure, those one compromised credentials, can cascade into massive financial and reputational losses. Next, we have Hal Leonard Australia, which is a small music publishing company that you might not seem like a typical cyber target. And that's exactly the point. In early 2024, they were hit by an organized ransomware group who stole 40 gigabytes of sensitive data and released it on the dark web. They never released the exact financial impact, but the consequences were clear. There was operational disruption, which halted their business processes. There was reputational damage, which affected customer trust. And there were long-term costs expected from the data recovery, legal compliance, and rebuilding the trust with their clients. Case shows how cyber criminals don't just go after banks or tech firms. Every business is a potential target, regardless of the size or the industry. Mason's now going to show us how an attacker might try to gain initial access through a phishing email, and then after that we'll talk a bit about how we can layer on protection to try and stop that from happening.
Thank you. Who has seen a phishing email? Oh, yeah, fair few. I won't ask if you've been caught by a phishing email. I think that's a bit too personal. Phishing emails, they are commonplace, as we can see. There are a few things that they're meant to do for the attacker. They're meant to either get you to click on a link or get you to trust them. There's a few things that we need to look out for phishing emails. Number one is the address that it's coming from. People go, oh, you can change your name to whatever you want in Gmail. You know, I'm now Matt Smith, and I'm approaching you saying, hey, that file that I need, can you send it through? Or, hey, I've got that really, really important payroll thing. Can you just switch up the bank account? I'm running late. And this can lead to large financial loss. Urgent invoicing required, security alerts, all these are things to look out for. We've got spelling mistakes in emails. That's quite common, but with the use of AI, people can spell now. Maybe one day I can too. Compressed attachments of any kind. PDFs can contain malware. I don't know if people are aware of that. Also, Word documents can contain malware or malicious macros that can completely compromise your system if you don't have the right security in place. These things can lead to malware getting onto your system. So, hands up again. I love this interaction. What do we know? How many people know what malware is? Yeah? All the tech heads? Perfect.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I should know.
Malware is simply a program that's made to be malicious. It's made by someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. And a lot of the time, if you are opening a phishing email, and again, it could come from someone that is a supplier that's been compromised, someone that you interact with every day, their business has been attacked. They send in through that attacked, compromised business sends you an email. You trust this person. You interact with them all the time. They send you an email. You open up the attachment. Now you've got malware on your system. This can just be stuff that, grabs information and data from your business. It could get your accounts and compromise you. But the worst of the worst is ransomware, where they get into your system, they exfiltrate everything, and they encrypt everything. So they take all your files from where you have it safely, they take them out and they steal them all, and they encrypt everything so you can't access them. You can't access your client list, you can't access your billing, all of it's taken away from you. And what they do, they slide a piece of paper over the internet very maliciously and say, this is the amount. Now, do you pay that? Is it wise for you to pay these very upstanding, trustworthy criminals? So you hand them the money and just fingers crossed they do what they said? We recommend you don't, but we are going to try to make sure that you know that you have other options. We want to show that you can create security and have the security within yourself, that you don't have to bend to those demands. You don't have to worry about malware. You can be aware and informed about phishing emails. So I'm going to hand it back to Tom. Hope my laissez-faire presentation on the dangers of phishing emails really, really sticks in. Now, how many people know what a phishing email is and has received one? I was hoping for a better conversion, but I'll take it. I'll hand it back to Tom.
Thanks, Mason. So what Mason's demonstrated is a combination of very real-world scenarios that we see executed or attempted at a frightening frequency. Our team work on validating and remediating these attempts on a nearly daily basis. Fortunately, in most cases where we've put the layers of protection in what we're about to talk about, most of those attacks don't get as far as a ransom. Most attacks are fortunately predictable. They follow steps that work on the unprotected, which means we can put in layers of protection that can reliably stop or slow down those attacks to enough time for us to allow a human response to undo what they're attempting to do. A simple real-world example of this is how you might put layers of protection on to protect your house. If you're on a street with multiple houses and your house has locked doors, closed windows, a barking dog when someone approaches, security screens, camera system, and inside your valuables are locked in a safe, anyone looking for a target is going to walk past your house and move on to somebody else. Each one of those protections is an effective deterrent, but they're also defeatable on their own with enough time and resources. You can drug a dog, you can cut through a security screen, but each layer makes it harder and increases the likelihood of detection. Anyone other than the most prepared or most desperate is going to move on to a softer target if there's one available. And even with all those layers of protections, locked doors, barking dogs, cameras and safes, there's still a chance that a determined intruder could break in, steal or destroy something valuable. That's where our backup, disaster recovery and cyber insurance come into play. These aren't about stopping the attacks, they're about what happens afterwards and how we recover. So as much we like to talk about technology, and it's both the target and critical in the defense of your assets and data, your people are always going to be the first and last line of that defense. They're usually where the first step of the breach occurs, and they're usually the quickest way to let us know when there has been an attack. Going back to our house example, every one of your employees has a key to your house, and every set of keys labeled with your address and which door or window the key is for. Security awareness training is teaching your staff to keep those keys secure and out of plain sight. It's teaching them to report it as soon as they realize they've dropped their keys. And as you know, your staff probably drop a lot of keys. Now you may be thinking, I have MFA, my keys aren't that important. After all, we in cybersecurity, we've been banging the MFA drum for nearly a decade now. And you're right, MFA does increase your protection, and it's quite often the first layer of defense that we put in place for you. But like all the layers, MFA is defeatable. In the last couple of years, MFA has become almost trivial for adversaries to overcome. They capture your MFA token at point of breach, and then they replay it over and over again to maintain their access. You still need it, but it's not effective on its own anymore. So we need to train your staff to protect themselves when targeted and to be able to accurately identify when a cyber attack is being attempted. Your staff importantly need to know the process for what happens when they encounter suspicious content and activity and what to do if they do slip up. This training needs to be done regularly. at least monthly, and not just an induction and then annually. Humans need consistent messaging in order to build good habits. And we also need to be not too upset when people do slip up. We are human after all, and that employee that clicks a link and then immediately realizes they've made a mistake and reports it, that's a success of the training, not a failure. Your staff's response just shortened the time it takes to stop that attacker. And finally, your staff need to know that your organization provides the training and that you require them to complete it. You need strong and regular messaging from your senior team to help build a security conscious culture so that your staff know that it's critical and the business needs it done. So our next layer, cybersecurity, we talk a lot about perimeters and attack surfaces. These are the bits of your systems and services that are exposed to potential attackers. Think of it like your house again. Your perimeter used to be your front door and your windows. You could install locks, you could put up a fence, you get that barking dog. It was clear where your boundaries were. But today it's like your house has expanded across the whole neighborhood. The entry points are everywhere. And once again, showing my age, back in the old days, it was simpler. Your servers were in your office and you had a single front door to guard, and we could focus all of our security efforts there. Now your perimeters are everywhere. See, laptops, tablets, smartphones that can all access your system wherever they are. Office 365 and other cloud services that are accessible from any browser with an internet connection. Any other third-party platforms that are hosting your data outside of your direct control. So just like you install security layers at home, we need layers of protection for our digital spaces, especially where attackers are most active. And as we've seen, 33% of attacks start with a digital message. It could be an email message, more frequently as Teams messages. And going back to Mason's example, which was a phishing email, here we can put layered, advanced email protections in place to reduce the chance of that email ever getting to your user's inbox. There's spam and phishing filters, which is like having a peephole screening people as they come in your door. Attachment sandboxing, which is like having a bomb squad that opens up every package as it gets into before it gets into your house. A link protection, it's like a sniffer dog that's checking out every link as it comes in and making sure that it is what it says it is. And impersonation protection, which is like having caller ID, making sure that the person that's sending you the message is who they say they are. And these tools don't just block the threats. They reduce the amount of noise your staff have to deal with, and it makes them more able to spot real dangers when they do get through those filters. Okay, our next layer is access control. So even though I pointed out the flaws in MFA, it isn't perfect, it is still essential. It may be trivial to pick a lock, but you still lock your door every night before you go to bed. It won't stop every break-in attempt, but it does make it harder for someone to just walk in off the street. And now imagine your house key, it's your password, gets stolen. Without MFA, that key opens up everything. But with MFA, the intruder also needs that security token, your phone or your fingerprint, to get access. So in our digital world, MFA means something you know, again that's your password, or something you have of your phone or a security token, or something you are, which could be your fingerprint or facial recognition. Now passwords, let's be honest, passwords are like hiding a spare key under the doormat. They're easy to guess, they get reused, and they're easy to steal. And the future is moving towards password-less authentication, which is much more secure and user-friendly. But until then, we still need to use passwords, so we need to make sure we have strong password policies in place to make those passwords the best they can be. And then we go further with another layer, which is conditional access policies. Conditional access policies is like having a smart home system that only lets people into your house under certain conditions. So only from trusted locations. If your business doesn't operate from Russia, we don't let anyone try and authenticate from Russia. If your business only operates in Australia, we only let your users log in from Australia. We use secure devices and approved apps. We make sure only trusted software and devices can access your systems. And we use time-based re-authentication so that when someone does use the key, we check that key every 4 hours and make sure that they should still have access. It's like telling your house to only let people in if they're using the right key from the right place and at the right time. And this significantly reduces your attack surfaces. So authentication layer is a critical part of your digital defense. So now we'll talk about your devices. So trusted devices is our next layer. So think of a trusted device like a family member's phone or laptop that you programmed and you set up yourself. It's about only allowing devices that you know, trust, and have set up with the right protections into your house to start with. For company-owned devices, this means we need to make sure that they're configured properly. So that's like making sure your doors and windows are actually locked. We need to make sure they're patched and updated. So it's checking your smoke alarms, that their batteries are working, and that you've got no broken windows that someone can just climb through. And then we use disk encryption and security software, which is like having a safe inside your house with a monitored alarm system. So what happens if someone does still manage to sneak in? Well, that's where your endpoint detection and response come in, which is EDR. That's like having that security camera system and motion sensors in every room of your house. EDR watches for suspicious activity, like someone opening a drawer or trying to get into your safe. It can trigger an alarm, it can lock doors, it can call for help, and it will automatically isolate a compromised device from your network. And just like reviewing security footage after a break-in, EDR gives us forensic insights so that we can understand what happened and how to stop it happening again. It's not just about catching the intruder. It's about making sure that we can reinforce your defenses so it doesn't for the next attempt. So, what happens if it all goes wrong? What if all of those defenses fail and someone does get in? No defense is 100% impenetrable, and as we put the layers up, the attackers are working way around them. That's why we don't just talk about the defense, we talk about how to recover. Our two most important fail-safes here are disaster recovery and backup solutions, and our cyber insurance. Both are essential. We'll leave the cyber insurance conversation to the guys from Cyber Threat Insure, and for now I'm just going to talk about the backup and DR. If the attacker does successfully encrypt your data with ransomware, or your data is destroyed, your backups are going to be your lifeline. We implement and manage comprehensive backup strategies with multiple copies of your data. And critically, these backups need to be immutable. Immutable means that once they've been written, they can't be changed, they can't be deleted, and they can't be encrypted by ransomware. You need to have documented and practiced disaster recovery plan that outlines exactly how to restore your data and your systems and get your business back up and operational after a major incident. If you were affected by a major incident today, how many here would know the steps to get their business up and running? Anyone?
Cheating.
No?
I'm winning that.
So, if you don't, have a chat with us. We can help put better layers in place to ensure that you have good recovery. Part of that needs to be documented and practiced recovery, which includes your recovery time objective. That's how long or how quickly you need that data back up and running, and a recovery point objective, and that's how much data you're prepared to lose in a major disaster. And once again, most importantly, this plan, along with the backups, they need to be regularly tested so that you know they work when you most need them. So, to recap, cybersecurity landscape is like a neighborhood where the break-ins are getting more and more frequent, more sophisticated, and harder to predict. And unfortunately, we're not fighting fair. Attackers only need to get lucky once. We need to be prepared every day, which means you need layers of protection. You need your trained household. That's your staff who know not to open the door to strangers and not to give their keys away. That's your user awareness training. We need secure mail slots and visitor screening. It's your advanced email protections. We need strong locks and strong access rules. That's our MFA and our conditional access policies. And we need to make sure we're only letting trusted people in with trusted keys. That's our trusted devices. We also need our security cameras and alarms in every room. That's our endpoint detection and response, or EDR. And if the worst happens, we need our insurance, a fire escape plan, and a rebuild strategy. It's our backup, disaster recovery, and cyber insurance. No single lock or alarm is going to stop every intruder, but together these layers make your business a much harder target and ensure you can recover quickly if something does go wrong. Just like a real-world home might have other protections like motion lights, neighborhood watch, reinforced doors, there are other important layers that we don't have time to go into today. We could talk about regular patching, systems and apps, XDR, MDR, data loss protection, penetration testing, Adrian. Cyber incident response processes. So we're happy to talk about any of those things offline if you want to talk later. But at Smile, we're not just your locksmith. We're your security consultant, your emergency responder, and your trusted neighbor. We're here to proactively manage your defenses. We're here to guide you through evolving threats, and we're here to respond quickly when something does go wrong. Cybersecurity isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing journey, and we're here to walk with you. So thanks everyone for your time and attention.